Hello, this is April from Craft Knife Chronicles, and I'm here to show you how I made the frames for the artist trading cards in my project. So I started out with 2 pieces of medium weight chipboard. This is the chipboard that is about 1/16 of an inch thick, and they are cut 3.5 inches wide by 7.25 inches tall. Now, these also have the stiffness going in the vertical dimension to give them more sturdiness. So 3.5 by 7.25, and there's 2 of them. Now, to make the little pointed roof on each one, what I did was I found the center point and I marked that, and then I came down 3/4 of an inch and made a little tick mark on each side, and then connected those lines. And you can either connect them with a marker or a pencil to begin with, or you can just go ahead and cut them right away with your craft knife to connect them, whichever you're more comfortable doing. So just after I have those 2 lines drawn, I'm just using a little ruler here to cut off those triangles. And get the other side here. And we need to do that to 2 pieces. So you have 2 pieces, 3.5 by 7.25, with the little peaked roof cut on both. And then one piece you leave whole like this, and the other piece you'll do a little bit of cutting to make the frame. And I usually just draw my lines first. This dimension on the sides measures 3/8 of an inch in on each side, and then come up from the bottom 1 inch, and the opening is 5 inches tall. So that creates the frame. And once I've done that, I take a marker of some kind. I'm just using brown here because it goes with the colors on my project, and I just ink around all of the edges. I already did some of these in the interest of time. And then on the front, most of the inking I like to do, I'm going to put paper, of course, on the outside here, but I probably will have a little bit of a reveal, so I want to do some inking just with some distress ink. This is my favorite Gathered Twigs. Most of the inking can be done after you put the frame together, but it's too hard to get to these inside edges, so I like to do them before I put it together. Now I'm just putting a piece of patty paper down here so that I can get in here a little more aggressively, especially on these thin sides. You want to have some kind of support. Either put your hand behind there or do like I'm doing and just put it down on some a craft sheet or scrap paper or something. Alright, there's more inking, but it can wait until after it's put together. So we have those 2 pieces done, and then we want to do a little bit of marking. On this solid piece, I've made 1 mark here, and it is, sorry, I had to do my math, 13/16 of an inch from the bottom. So that's 3/4 of an inch plus a 1/16. Make a line on the bottom here, and let me do that in pen so that you can see it better. So 3/4 of an inch plus a 1/16. I just hold my ruler there and I can see that. And then up here at the top, this one is 5 3/8 above that line there. Now, so you can make a couple tick marks and connect them, or I have a ruler that I can use here that's big enough to do that with. So, bottom one was 13/16, and then this one was 5 3/8 above the bottom line. So that's the markings on the solid backing. Now on the frame, on the inside, take something so that you can mark 1/8 of an inch on the top and the bottom of the frame opening. So I just hold this off 1/8 of an inch and make a line. Those will be for this the inside walls of the frame. So now we've done our marking, we've done inking our edges, so let's attach our hinges to the back. And first we need to make the outside sides that go all the way around here. And for that you need, these are all cut 1/2 inch wide. You could make this any dimension thickness you want, because I have 12 of them in my project. I didn't want it to get to be too thick. It's thick enough even at 1/2 an inch, but you could make these wider if you would like to. So I have 2 pieces that are cut at 6 7/16. That's a 1/16 less than 6 1/2. And I have 2 pieces that are just a hair over 1 3/4 inches, and then I have one more piece that is 3 3/8 inches. So let's put these together. You could just use small little joining strips. This is a strip of cardstock, craft cardstock that I've put score tape on. And just so I wouldn't have to mess around with a lot of teeny little pieces to join all of these, I'm just making one long one that will join all the pieces to the top. So I'm just starting back about 1 inch on one end and centering that on one of my small pieces, and then butting that next small piece up exactly next to it. And then on the 2 ends, adding my 2 long pieces. Of course, we want to do some burnishing. And that's good. So this starts to form our side walls. Now we want to join this piece on the bottom, and to do that I've just cut 2 little hinges that are again just cardstock with score tape on the bottom, and I'm going to put them on this 3 3/8 inch piece just on the 2 ends. Give that a little burnish. Now in order to make this fit right, these are not butt joints for this. It comes together so that the end on the long piece is going to be flush with this piece that's coming across here. So I don't know if I can get this up close enough for you to see that or not. Oops, sorry. Apparently not. So anyway, the long piece is coming on the outside of this 3 3/8 inch piece. If you think about the math of this, if that piece is 3 3/8 and these strips are 1/16 inch wide, by putting that on the inside, we have our 3 3/8 plus a 1/16 plus a 1/16 gives us our 3.5, which is the width of our project. So I'll just give these little hinges a burnish. And if anything is hanging off, one of your little hinges or anything is hanging off, take a moment and just get after that with some scissors or your craft knife so that everything is nice and smooth. The next thing we want to do is to add some cardstock joining strips to this frame so that we can attach it to our back. So in the interest of time, I've gone ahead and done that. I've just gone and put, I've got 5 little pieces here, and then I don't pay attention to the corners until I get them on. Then I'll just come after each corner with my scissors a little bit and get any of that excess out of there so that there's no bulk. Try to cut both layers at a time, and there we go. Okay, so now we're going to attach this frame to the back, and it's easiest just to take all of these tape backings off at once. I usually like to start with the bottom. Remember, your marks are going on the inside here. Just kind of looking at that from a couple of different angles. Try not to get the sides on prematurely like what's happening to me there. Just kind of lightly put that on there, so I've got the bottom kind of lightly attached. And then I'll come up here and get this point next, just kind of getting it centered there. And as long as you're kind of careful and don't put any pressure on things, you should be able to move them around. So then after I get that top corner there, I come and look at each of these side top corners. And then finally along the sides themselves. When everything is looking good, I come in here and burnish along that inside. So you can see we've got the start to it going here. So now, remember we drew these little lines here at the top and the bottom. I've cut some little ledger strips. When the front comes on, these will give us a place to glue the little walls that come on the frame part. So I'm just checking them. These need to be a minimal of 1/8 of an inch shorter than the width in here, because we still have some side walls to put in. So I'm just putting a little bead of glue on there and lining it up so that I've got at least a 1/16 of an inch of space on both sides, and giving that a little pressure. I'm just cleaning up the glue on the inside of there with my fingernail, because I'm going to use a marker in there in a minute. And then this one is a little bit shorter just because of the pitch of the roof there, but again, it needs to stay away from the side walls and the roof at least a 1/16 of an inch. And put that so that it lines up with your line. So now we have those little ledger strips, and the line is here and here. Okay. Now on some little fillers, just because when we go to attach the front, and this is the front, when it comes on here to attach, just to give a little more gluing surface here than just the single edge of the chipboard, I've made just some, I call them filler pieces, and they're just a little bit shorter than the little roof pitch here. And I'm making sure that when I put them in here, that I push them down really hard so that they are flush with those little outside walls. Now, I'm used some kind of lighter weight cardstock to make my cardstock joining hinges here, and so the thickness of it isn't really an issue here, as long as I give it some good pressure down there. So if you've used heavier weight cardstock, 85 pound or so, you might need to check and see if you can have these strips still be a ½ an inch or not. And then so we put 2 on the roof pitch, and now I'm going to put 1 down here on the very bottom. Okay, so we have added little filler strips on the 2 roof pitches and down here on the bottom. And my glue is dry on the inside of here. I can see it's still wet on the outside, but when I go to put my background paper on here, I want to make sure I'm not going to see any bare chipboard showing through. So I'm just using a marker that I guess needs to be refilled. So to go around, and it's either coordinating or contrasting, sorry for the squeaking, with the background paper, so that in case anything shows, okay, I took a break and refilled my marker, and now I have my inking done all around the inside here. It extends in here about 1/4 of an inch or so, I would say, just to be on the safe side. So now you have to make a decision about what's going in the inside and what color the walls will be on the inside. So in my case, I've got this kind of tealy blue color going on here, and see a little stray pencil mark. So I've cut these strips again. They're 1/2 inch long, and they're just, I mean, 1/2 inch wide, and they're just long enough to fit on the inside of the 2 walls. So they're going right on the inside here. And again, you want to make sure that they are not coming up taller than the sides of the walls. So we'll go ahead and put those 2 on. There's the first one. Okay. And then whatever your background paper is, now I just was working on some tags, and These tags measure about 3 1/8 inches wide, and I cut it down to 5 1/8 inches tall. So 3 1/8 by 5 1/8. And what I'm going to do is center it. There's a little space, not too much, between the side walls, and then leave about 1/8 of an inch of your marker showing between the two ledger strips. So 1/8 of an inch at the top and 1/8 of an inch at the bottom. So kind of centered in between those two ledger strips. And I just put some score tape on the back. You can use whatever paper, of course, that you'd like. I'm just looking to see if I think there's a top and a bottom. I think this way is better. Now, because it's score tape, you kind of get one opportunity at this, so try to get it in there straight. And then give it a burnish. Okay, we'll set that aside. Now, back to the frame. Recall that we marked some lines here on the top and the bottom that are 1/8 of an inch away. So I've made some little, so what we want to do is we've got the two sides of the inside going on here, and now what we want to do is add to the frame the top and the bottom of the frame. So these are cut. Everything again is 1/2 inch wide, and these are cut at 3 1/4. And you might want to just make it a hair under 3 1/4. We'll do a dry fit here in a second and see if it's all going to go together easily enough. And then I've just added on one side a little of a cardstock joining strip. So make sure when you put this on, you line the top of it up with the line you put on here, and try to center it inside the sides of the wall so that it becomes like a little shelf there. We'll give that a burnish. And on the top side, what I've done is, see if I can get this up. So I think you can see there's a little screw-eye. It's a Tim Holtz screw-eye, but what I did was I opened it a little bit so that it could be a hook. And I've got that centered right there in this strip, and it's again 3 1/4 inches long. And just drilled a little hole with an awl, screwed it in there, and put some either glossy accents or diamond glaze on the inside just to have a little added security. Now the hook, the opening, faces the side that you put your paper hinge on. Okay. Now obviously, so I wanted to hang my artist trading cards. Obviously, if you don't want to have something like that going on, there's no need to add the little hook. And they're easy to open up just with a couple of pairs of pliers. Now before I add this on, I can see that the ends here are going to overhang the pointy end of the frame, so I'm just giving them a little trim. Again, this gets centered and on the line. And let me just burnish that. Okay, so we're in the home stretch here. We have this piece that is going to fit down inside of here, and the two pieces that we just added, they will butt up against the little ledger strips that we added, so that we'll have a gluing surface for them. So I just want to do a little dry fit first and see if it's going to fit in there easily. I don't want it to be too loose, but I can tell that I need to give the pieces just a little bit of a haircut. So I'm just going to bring my scissors in and just give a little snip. You could use your craft knife too, and just, I might need to do this on both sides. I'm just going to do one side first and see what happens. I think I need to do both sides. So this, you know, it's a little trial and error here. That's the side I did the first time, so let me come over here. There we go. And there, now it's still fitting snugly, but I can get it in there. So now it's just time to kind of look around, see how things are going. This one's looking pretty good. So I'll pull this dry fit out. It's still kind of snug down there, but all right. Now it's time to work kind of quickly, and it's handy if you've got a fine line glue, because some of these places are pretty small that you want to get into. So I'm just putting a line right on the inside of the two ledgers. Don't want to get too carried away with that glue because it could ooze out onto the project. And then I'm just putting a bead right, there's two layers of chipboard here so that, you know, you have adequate gluing surface. So I'm just running a bead right between the two of them. And then add some glue on my finger. Giving that a push down. Then kind of reaching in here and getting the two, I don't know, the bottom and the top of the inside of the frame attached to the ledger. And then kind of working my way around, making sure that everything is lining up nicely. And when you think you've got it lining up nicely, just kind of give it, you know, this is, I'm using some of that Scotch Quick Dry adhesive in my line gluer, so it likes to grab pretty quickly. And then when everything is good, just turn it over. You could put some weights on it at this point, or just kind of put some pressure on it for a few minutes. And then we'll be ready for our next step. So let's finish off our frame now. We need a couple of strips of paper, decorative paper or cardstock. I'm using cardstock. These are cut 1/2 inch by 12 inches and they have score tape on the back. A piece of decorative paper for the front that is cut 3 3/8 by 6 1/8, 3 3/8 by 6 1/8. And a piece of decorative paper for the back. It's cut 3 3/8 by 7 1/8. And then I have a couple of pieces of lightweight chipboard that I have adhered cardstock to. This first piece is cut 3/4 inch by 4 inches and it's scored in the middle. And then I've cut out one of the Tim Holtz pediment dies and from some lightweight chipboard that also was covered with my cardstock. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is to take our cardstock or decorative paper strips and finish off the sides of our frame. Now, as you may recall, the frame was put together with 1/2 inch wide strips of chipboard, and that's why I cut this piece of cardstock to be 1/2 inch wide. It goes right in between those two edges, and I did some inking, of course, before I started this so that the edges would look finished. And come around here to the bottom and then just pick up where we left off with our second strip. Come around here to the bottom and trim that off so that it meets. I try not to have any overlap there so that it won't have a bump. And then of course go around and burnish that in well. Okay. So from our front piece of the decorative paper that is 3 3/8 by 6 1/8, we need to do a little prep. So first we're going to turn it over on the reverse and put on each side a strip of 1/4 inch score tape, and then on the bottom enough tape to come up about an inch. So I have 2 strips of 1/2 inch here. You could use whatever combination would give you at least an inch there. And then we want to do a little cutting, and in the interest of time I've already cut my piece. And the dimensions are that this is 7/8 of an inch wide down at the bottom, 7/8 of an inch wide, and the two sides are 1/4 inch wide. So that'll give us a nice little reveal when we go to put this paper on here. I think you can see that. So I'll just remove my score tape backing. I had some 1 inch wide score tape which I used on this one. And then keeping in mind that the reveal, which is 1/16 of an inch, trying to keep things nice and centered and straight. I kind of put the bottom on first and hold up my two sides, and then take each side up and just eyeball the center there, and repeat on the other side, and then give that a burnish. We're going to save the back for later. So on the pediment, what I did was I punched a couple holes, and I added one of the Tim Holtz word bands for Christmas, and just did some inking around the edges. I also trimmed off just the little corners of the top here so that it won't stick out very much, maybe a 1/16 of an inch at the max from each side here. And you can see that I cut, when we first made the frames, that angle was cut to match these little pediments. So I'll just take some white glue and not too chintzy, not too over, and get some glue on there. Try to keep that straight and aligned with the top of the frame, and just kind of hold it there for a second. Any glue that oozes out, you can wipe off. It's not going to show because we're going to have a little roof piece that comes on here in a second. Get that glue off of there. Okay. That's on there well. And then we have this piece of the lightweight chipboard covered in a cardstock that is cut 3/4 inch by 4 inches. Now 3/4 of an inch is just a little bit deeper than the frame, so that there can be like a shadow line. What I do is I keep it flush with the back and then allow that overhang to be in the front. And then I'm just kind of looking at these two corners to see if there is, I don't want to have much overhang at all from what is on the pediment and the sides of the frame. So you might have to take your scissors and give it one side or the other a little haircut. I'm going to come in and just with the barest of snips take a little bit, it's like less than 1/16 of an inch off of each end. And then I'm just going to just trim those corners a teeny little bit just so it's not perfectly square there, but you don't want to take off too much. And then ink where I cut. And then to glue this piece on, we'll put the glue up on the top of the frame. And I like to lie this down on my table. I put some patty paper down so that in case any glue leaks out, it won't get on my work surface. Get that lined up. That helps me get it flush with the back there. Now I planned this so that I have it going in a place where the back isn't going to show. If you're going to put it where the back would show, you could split the difference in the overhang. So there is that. Now I just have a couple of decorative touches to put on this one. You could do whatever you want, of course. My project is Reflections of Christmas, so each of my frames has a little sentiment, word, affirmation, whatever you want to say about the holiday season. And then I also have a cutout from a little die cut cutout that I'm adding as well. So I just need to see where I need to put the glue for that. Okay, let's set that aside to dry for a moment while we talk about hinging the panels together. Now, I'm using Tyvek strips. Tyvek is that product, you see it in mailing envelopes, it can't be torn. I just buy a bunch of these at the envelopes and cut them into the size I need from my local office supply store. So this strip was cut 1 3/8 inches by 6 inches because my hinges are going to be 6 inches tall. And then what I did was I painted that using some distress paint that I just put a light coat on, wiped it quickly off with some soft cloth so that I get a kind of a tinted piece of Tyvek, but it's still very flexible. And my next thing was to put a strip of decorative paper down the center. Now I did this because about 3/8 of this hinge is going to show, and that was a lot of just the plain brown. So it's not necessary, I just wanted to do that. So, hinging. And once that's done, there are two types of hinges. It depends on if you're having, the frame is coming in or going out. So let me bring another one in here to show you what I mean. So if the frames are coming in, because I'm making this into an accordion book, if the frames are coming in, you make the hinge one way, and if it's going the opposite direction, you make the hinge slightly differently. So let's look at the differences in those hinges. Both of them start out by adding 1/2" score tape on either side of the side that has the decorative strip on it. Then the kind of hinge that comes in like this, on the back side it has a strip of 1/2 inch paper. Now I've done this to match my side strips. You could either match or you could have a different paper to feature there. So that one is the kind for the innies, and the kind for the outie, it has nothing on the other side. So the innie one will attach, and I'm coming up about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom, but it attaches so that the decorative side is what you see. And then you just attach that to both sides like this. Now if this was the outie, an outie, sounds kind of like belly buttons, on the back, and this is why you don't want to put your back paper on yet, you just remove your tape and keep this about the same distance apart as you end up with for the other ones. It should be about 3/8 of an inch in the middle, and this tape would just, or this hinge would just attach like that. I would probably draw a couple of lines here to guide myself to keep that straight, and work on my craft mat so that when it gets put together everything is standing nice and straight. And then once that gets on, then you can put your backings on. And the backings, like we said, were cut from a strip that is 3 3/8, or a rectangle 3 3/8 by 7 1/8, and that allows a little reveal on each side. And then just use a pencil to figure out what angle to cut that. And then after you've done all your hinging, etc., you can put the backs on and the panel will be completely finished. Now mine, these are sized to hold little ATC artist trading cards, and I've just on this one added a couple of bells to the bottom and then a little length of chain with a jump ring. And this chain happens to be big enough so that one link of the chain will fit over the hook that is in the frame. Now if you don't have chain like that, you can just add another jump ring at the top. Now sometimes it's a little tricky to get on. We'll see if I'm lucky enough to get it on there while you all are watching. And there we go. So that's how I made each frame and also linked them together. I hope you enjoyed seeing how this project came together. Thanks for watching, and happy holidays.